Welcome to the 484th episode of the Jami Dulaney Plant-Based Wellness Podcast. My name is Jami Dulaney, and I'm your host. I'm a plant-based cardiologist and endurance athlete living in Southwest Florida. Thanks and welcome. If you're a first-time listener, I hope you enjoy the show. If you're coming back, I appreciate you. It's been a long time doing these podcasts, almost every week. And I usually start out with what's growing in Florida and what I'm up to. Mango season is coming to a close. We have some ripening in cold storage, so those will go into the freezer. Otherwise, we're moving ahead. What we do have growing in the yard are bananas, a variety of, we have 3 different banana varieties growing, and we also have some white sapodilla. If you've never had a sapodilla and you can get your hands on one, I suggest you do it. It is looks like a kiwi, but it is very sweet, has the consistency of a pear with some brown sugar type flavor, so very good. The other thing that I have discovered, a new fruit for the season, is a lemon drop melon. Found it at the local Sprouts, and it looks like a yellow, it's more yellow on the outside, kind of shaped like a cantaloupe. But the inside looks like a honeydew with some yellow hints to it, and it actually has a lemon flavor. And it's very sweet. I'm not a real tart person, but this is actually a very sweet honeydew. And I liked it so much I bought another one, so that tells you something, because I'm not, honeydew is one of those filler fruits I get when I can't find other fruits that I like in the summertime. So usually watermelon, black cherries, mangoes are my go-to fruits in the summertime for the most part. The sapodillas, mamey, whenever I can get a hold of them. But I definitely put the lemon drop melon on my list. So check it out if you have I'm sure Whole Foods have them. Maybe, who knows. But it is made in the USA, so good. I am running more than walking and slowly increasing my mileage. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday are increased mileage days. Monday, Wednesday, Friday are strength days and shorter mileage. We're going to do that for a month or so more, and then maybe switch it up and go to 2 days of strength training, or so that I can bump the mileage more. But we'll see. Still not perfect. Still having some discomfort. Still having a little bit of swelling, but much improved, and there are moments of pain-free running. So I'm excited about that. Have to kind of track what's going right as opposed to other, what's not right, so to speak. Would like to be racing, but that's just not going to happen right now. So the idea is to get stronger and fitter. On Tuesday and Thursdays, I'm incorporating a hill on the treadmill. So I'm at about 7%, but the goal is to start running those and jogging them slow right now, and then gradually go back to celery fields and add some hill work and go from there. So on the mend, making forward progress, so not dialing back, and I think things are good. Still doing a lot of mobility stuff, so I think it's all good. And speaking with my running coach this week, she asked me how I could share what's happened with my podcast listeners and perhaps my practice, and how it's relevant. And for the most part, I would have to say that it's a journey. It's a slow journey with ups and downs that many people face in their health journeys, whether it's weight loss journey or coming back from a serious illness. It's not all linear. There are ups and downs. I've had to experience it too. Frustrations along the way, wondering if you're doing the right thing, questioning a lot of things, trying a lot of different things, some of which work, some of which don't work, and trying not to get frustrated. But I think one of the biggest things that I've come to learn with this particular injury is that it's okay to get injured. I think as a master's athlete, that doesn't mean I've mastered running, but it means that I'm an older runner. You always worry about, when's this going to be the last one? When is this going to be the injury that makes me not run again, or makes me not able to run again, or makes me it's no longer something that I should do or whatever. It's always in the back of your mind. And injury is always one of those things. It's like, can I come back from an injury? And the comeback thing, how much fitness am I going to lose? Am I going to have to start from scratch? I was making such good progress. The reality of it is it's okay to get injured. It's okay to get injured because the idea of being healthy is being able to recover from an injury. And not to do something and not to get injured would not be increasing my health span, increasing my lifespan. So, my father had a Mercedes, his first Mercedes, and he used to keep it covered up in the garage. And we used to tease him the only time he drove it if he was going to a wedding or a funeral, and otherwise it kept covered in the garage, and the tires wore, and the belts, rubber belts and things disintegrated, and he had to make repairs on the car even though it looked really good. So sitting around is not necessarily good for anything, and so we, as humans, we do need to move to keep muscle strength, to keep muscle tone and everything. So certainly better to move and risk injury than to be fearful and not do anything. And trust that you can make a comeback. There's always something and someone that always shows me it's possible to make a comeback. And often make a comeback better than you were before, but certainly make a comeback to a level of activity that you enjoy. So I'm experiencing that now. I'm on the comeback road, but again, something we all have to experience, and probably a little patience, education there is part of it. My practice focuses mainly on reversing lifestyle diseases such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, autoimmune diseases, arthritis, and so forth. But one of the biggest risk factors for those lifestyle diseases is being overweight. And more Americans, more people suffer from being overweight, and yo-yo diets and all kinds of different fad diets are out there. And certainly being overweight is a risk factor for all of the bad things, including cancer, I think people don't realize. And so part of the practice is also about helping people to lose weight. I certainly believe that a plant-based diet is the best way to go about reversing disease. It has the most data behind it, but it's certainly not easy. And it's certainly not mainstream, especially for people that go out or people that don't like to cook. Because fruits and vegetables are low-calorie dense foods, the plant-based diet is often touted as eat as much as you want and you'll continue to lose weight and your body will normalize. But even eating plant-based has become very difficult with all the manufactured foods. And I hear people talk about, I am whole food plant-based, whole food plant-based, I am whole food plant-based. But I don't think people understand what that whole food or eating clean means any more than people say that they're eating clean and they're eating a carnivore diet or they're eating any other kind of diet. And I think that really gets skewed. And again, marketing has made it such that it's very confusing to see what that actually is. And people can eat a plant-based diet, not even a vegan diet, but a plant-based diet, and it can still be significantly calorically dense that people actually don't lose weight. So you can overeat pretty easy with just about any way of eating. I'm currently reading a book called The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. And in that book, he references Dr. Trevor Kashey, who is a PhD and works with athletes and non-athletes and professional athletes in weight management and nutrition. He's not in favor of any one particular way of eating, but looks at caloric density as one of the main problems in why people cannot adequately lose weight. Our perception of what we're actually eating is very difficult. every diet app there is looks at calories. People fill in what they eat. It generates how many calories. People quote every day they eat a 1,200 calorie diet. They eat 1,000 calories. I heard today someone said, I don't think I'm eating enough calories. That's why I'm not losing weight. And it's just so confusing for people that they don't really understand, and for the most part misrepresent what they eat as far as calories go by 50 to 60%. And they don't realize just how dense some of the foods are that they actually consume, or how much food that they actually consume. So he actually starts with people and has them weigh everything that they eat. And the reason why he has people weigh is a lot like why I don't like smoothies, is people don't realize the quantity of food that they actually consume in a day. And when you can actually see a weight of food, it kind of puts it more in perspective, because weight is not unlike we weigh so much, we eat so much. What it weighs is actually very relevant to our own weight, what we take in. And so he has people start out by weighing what they take in so that they can realize what they're doing and then adjust things accordingly. So if you were to look at the caloric density of certain foods, he actually broke it down into categories. The worst being chips, tortilla chips, potato chips, I don't care, lentil chips, whatever. It's a processed food, various ingredients put together, pressed into a chip that's crispy and either fried or baked, right? And they're about 2,000 calories per pound. So it's the most dense group of food that there is, chips. The next group would be breads and crackers. So think about breads, crackers, tortilla shells, pastries, all those things that go into things that have filling, and so the outside layer, so to speak. And those are 1,500 calories per pound. A lot of people don't realize that bread and pasta are processed foods, because there are grains that are processed to make the grains, and then the grains are made into the pasta or the bread. So it is a processed food. Even though I say, sourdough bread has some health benefits, it's still a calorically dense food. In second category, 1,500 calories per pound. And I'll show you some examples, or I'll tell you some examples, but I've done some calculation. It pretty much comes out across the board that it is 1,500 calories per pound of bread, crackers, and the like, if you were to weigh it. The next one comes to mind, next category is cooked rice, cooked oats, cooked grains. And they're about 500 calories per pound. And then tubers, which would be potatoes, 400 calories per pound, fruit, 300 calories per pound, and vegetables, 120 calories per pound. So you can see that when people say they eat a lot of fruit, it's impossible for the fruit to be causing that much of an issue when it's one of the lowest calories per pound. It's not the dense food that people are consuming. If you eat a lot of fruit on top of chips or breads, then obviously you're consuming a lot of calories that it goes on along with. If you're wondering what that is in grams, a pound is roughly 455 grams. There's 16 ounces in a pound. An NIH study was done looking at the best food calories per pound, and that magic number is somewhere around 570 calories per pound, being the most healthy foods, which turn out to be predominantly plant foods. So if one were to eat a plate that was a fourth protein, beans, tofu, tempeh, or lean animal protein if you're not plant-based, 1/4 tubers or whole grains, so potatoes, rice, and 1/2 of the plate being vegetables and fruit. If everybody did that in an unprocessed form, we would normalize our weight and people would be healthy. And in places in the world where this is the predominant diet, there is no heart disease, there is no lifestyle diseases for the most part, and people are of normal weight. A couple of simple examples would be a regular bag of potato chips. If you look them up, a regular bag is somewhere between 7 and 10 ounces, which is roughly a half a pound, 8 ounces in a pound, which are 1,000 calories. If you looked at the little bags that they sell, the little lunch bags, those would be about 2 ounces and 150 calories. The math works out. If you looked at a box of pasta, no matter what kind, whether it's rigatoni, spaghetti, fettuccine, they sell it by the pound. And 1 cup of cooked pasta is 221 calories. A pound of pasta is about 1,500 calories, a pound of dry pasta. There's 8 servings in a box. I don't know about you, but in my house, I don't feed 8 people on a box of pasta most of the time. If you look at serving size, a restaurant, I just did one easy that I could find. Olive Garden pasta with meat sauce is 635 calories. That's 525 grams or 1.1 pound of food. So by figuring out the caloric needs of a person, you can look at the weight of the food and figure out how much someone could eat in weight to actually maintain or lose weight. Now, obviously, the complicating factor is that if you eat out, you can't take your scales, you can't dump your spaghetti on the scale. It's very hard to do continuously throughout the day, so it makes it very difficult. And the large factor is people have to be very honest with every bite they take. The weight factors in, but it's very hard to factor in the sauces and different things that are put on food. So that's another complicating feature of this particular method. But the concept is there. If we were to eat whole fruits and vegetables in correct portions, we would all be healthy. But reality of it is there are comfort foods we describe as comfort foods all around us that are very processed, whether it's cookies, cakes, pies, candy, energy bars, energy drinks, things that are processed that are high calorie but also high dopamine driving foods, which give us instant pleasure. So that's why they're associated as being comfort foods. And the regular old foods that I described, are described as healthy foods. So we've already annotated foods that aren't as exciting as being the ones we should eat, and foods that are exciting being the ones we can't eat. But if someone was mindful about everything that they were eating and noted that they ate some of this comfort food, whether it would be out with friends or traveling or at a birthday party, then how do you get around that? To start, the traditional thing is gain 5 pounds and start over. But what if someone could be mindful enough that if they were to eat that, then they say, okay, I have to take away from the weight of food that I will consume for the rest of the day. Which would mean going without, which would mean actually being hungry. Most people talk about, I have a snack because I was getting hungry. This would be just the opposite. It would be giving up food because of some comfort food that you did eat. If you're able to do that, the question is, would you then come to a place where you would say, I'm tired of this sugary, sweet, salty food. I'm going to go back to my fruits and vegetables so that I can have the weight that I need to have, the caloric density of the foods that I need to have, and I'll be healthier. That's the really big long shot. That's why Weight Watchers doesn't last forever. Weight Watchers is a point system. They've changed the point system in the past. Even eggs are 0 points. They push people to eat things that have 0 points and save their points for other things. They push people towards high protein, low sugar type things currently. They also take into account self-reported activity levels being you sit all the time, you mainly sit, you mainly walk, you're physically exercise as you do hard exertions, and then men get more points, baseline points, than women. And there are calculations that you can do to get to these Weight Watcher points. But it relies on people looking at everything that they eat, and then people start to eyeball things or forget things. And so that's, to me, what makes it not work. The constant vigilance that you have to be able to sub in and sub out of things that either have high points or comfort food, so to speak. So now you're going to sub out other foods so you can make up for what you overate. It becomes very, very complicated. So I still go back that a plant-based diet is the easiest way to control your caloric intake, as long as you're watching these high-density foods, high caloric density foods, and noting them, because again, you can overeat on these things. And certainly if foods are processed, burgers, hummus, these are processed foods, as well as, different cakes, crackers, and so forth. And they really throw a wrench in people's ability to lose weight. The other piece of the pie is activity. I've referred to the Hadza hunter-gatherer tribe in the past, but the hunter-gatherer men burn about 24 calories per pound versus American men burn 17 calories per pound during the day. Women burn 20 calories per pound, and in Hadza, the hunter-gatherers, and American women burn 14 calories per pound. So if you want to just look at American men and American women, as women, we burn about 3 calories less per pound of body weight than men do. So if a man weighs 140 pounds and you weigh 140 pounds, you're still going to burn 3 calories less than the man. So equal weights does not mean equal caloric consumptions. But the biggest thing is the difference in activity levels. It is purported that the Hadza burn about 40% more calories than people living in a Western society. They're moving. They're working for their food. They're moving all the time. Most jobs are sedentary. Most people elect the easiest way around, park the closest to the grocery store, take the escalator when the stairs are available, pull things instead of carry things, have things hauled, have things delivered, don't do your own yard work. So we have really lowered our activity level and our caloric burning, which also contributes. So we eat more and we burn less, and we're much larger. I was amazed this week running at 6:30 in the morning, finishing up with one of the dogs, to see a car come up. And I'm always kind of a little leery when a car comes up just as daybreak's going. But he was actually delivering breakfast to someone. And I know that the people were not elderly. I know the people that live in the house are probably in their 40s, but they're getting breakfast delivered to them. Please don't get breakfast delivered to you. Please make your own breakfast. Please look at your caloric intake. The other thing is worrying about your stomach growling. It takes about 15 to 16 hours to actually clear our food completely from our system. And when we are in a fasted state is when a pathway called the mTOR signaling pathway is activated, which actually clears dead cells from our system. So when cells quit dividing, they die, they're there, and they cause problems. They're not doing anything good, and they're probably causing toxicity. But our body has a way of clearing those dead and decaying cells if you give it a minute. But when we're always sticking food in our mouth and we're never really finished digesting before we stick something else in, the first minute that we think that we might be a little hungry, we keep that pathway from working. So we have the accumulation of these dead and decaying cells, which lead to more and more disease. The other thing that has faulty thinking is that we can eat a bunch of high-fiber food and fill our stomachs up, and our stomachs will be distended, and our brains will be okay with it. So eat a bag of broccoli, and your stomach will be full, and you won't be hungry anymore. Our brains don't work that way. Our brains are meant to keep us alive. We have more sweet receptors than any other receptors more in our body, and more sweet receptors going from our mouths to our brains. And that is to make sure we have adequate calorie intake so that we don't starve to death. So we are driven to eat as humans. The problem is there's too many choices. The other thing, we have receptors for sodium, salt, because if you had to intake some salt, you're thirsty, and so we need a means to make sure that we're hydrated. Our thirst mechanism is very, very intricate. But the body also is responsive to how many calories we're eating. So our body's always trying to keep and maintain the biggest weight that we've ever accomplished because it's thought to be safe. So when you start to restrict your portion size, restrict your caloric intake, restrict the weight of food that you're taking in, all of a sudden your body's saying, no, your brain's saying, no, we're going to starve. And that's when all these mechanisms actually get ramped up at first. So there has to be a little discomfort when you're starting to change your intake. But back to the broccoli, your brain knows that's not adequate calories. That broccoli is no way near what usually fill up your stomach. And you're driven to eat. You're not full. There's some very potent neurotransmitters to get you to eat more. So we can't fool our stomachs by drastic changes. And the notion in America that I eat a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, a lot of whatever, is just not a good one. Being more of a minimalist, pushing away from the table when you're okay, not stuffed, is a concept that is hard to be mindful of. But we want to not push away hungry. We don't want to push away with inadequate calories, but lessen the calories to the point where we can reset gradually of the calories that we need. The myth of American dieting is that as soon as you get the weight off, you can go back to your old ways, and then gradually, you put the weight back on. The reality of it is, for a certain height and weight, you need excess amount and energy level. You need a certain amount of calories, and it's not really going to change. And the sad part is, we get older and lose muscle mass, you actually need even less calories. So why we see people get bigger as they age is we lose muscle mass, usually less active, but eating more calorie-dense foods. For those of you that like to consume nuts and seeds, now you're talking about 2,560 calories per pound. And for my carnivore friends out there, a pound of beef is about 1,150 calories per pound. So if people are only eating meat versus they were eating potato chips, you can see where that's how people in a carnivore diet lose weight, eliminating processed foods. So no matter what kind of diet that you eat, if you eliminate processed foods, everything is going to be all right. The problem is the processed foods are everywhere. So my advice would be to make your own food, shop for your own food, park as far away from the grocery store as you can and walk there. Carry your own groceries as much as possible. Certainly carrying them in. Do not use the bag boy to help him, let him either push the cart out or carry the groceries. Lift as many things as you can. Walk as much as you can. And try to eat mainly whole, unprocessed foods. If you would like a consultation with us to work on some of these problems, we would be more than happy to. You can go to drdulaney.com to see what we're all about, or you can email me at Jami, Jami, at drdulaney.com. Dr. Dulaney spelled out DoctorDulaney. But we would love to work with people to help them to be more mindful and figure out what weight of food is good for them and how they might increase their exercise to achieve a happier, healthier, more minimalistic type person, I guess. If we get to dial the clock back to the things when things are just a little bit more simple and do a little bit more things for ourselves, do harder things, get out of our comfort zone, and things will be a whole lot better. So I hope you enjoy the podcast. Thank you for listening. Share it with your friends. check out our website. We have some really good deals on entry level into our membership classes, $25 a month. You can see all our online things, as well as get hear our lectures and even see some of the Zoom nutrition and mobility classes. So give us a call if you're interested. Love to hear from you. Thanks again for all the well wishes on my ankle. Everything's getting better there. So have a good week, and I'll talk to you next week.